I want to tell you a story about my dad. My dad decided one day that he was going to smoke a cigarette. I think that the person who put him up to that was the son of the Baptist preacher. And I got to tell you, anytime you got a son of a preacher involved, a PK involved, you know there's trouble afoot. Well, my daddy and the son of the Baptist preacher, they snuck off into the barn out behind the house, and they had stolen a couple of cigarettes from my grandma Betty, and they lit up a couple of cigarettes, and they were smoking away, and they were coughing and hacking. I'm not sure they liked it very much, and they were coughing so much that they couldn't hear Grandma Betty coming up the path. And she opened the door to the barn, and she saw those two boys, and she looked at them and said, "What are you boys doing, smoking?" And the son of the Baptist preacher stood up and said, "Woman, behold your son." And he lit out and he ran across the field, leaving my poor dad all alone to face the wrath of Grandma Betty, who grabbed him by the ear and started dragging him to the house. Grandma Betty was always grabbing people by the ear and dragging them somewhere. And she set him down at the kitchen table and gave him a brand new pack of cigarettes, Camel cigarettes, unfiltered. And she told my dad to smoke every one of those cigarettes. He didn't get halfway through the pack of cigarettes before he was as sick as a dog and feeling awful bad about putting his mama through all of this. And you would think that that would have cured my dad and he never smoked another cigarette in his life. But no, by the time I was born, he was a heavy smoker. And my mom was a heavy smoker too. And so one day when I was a teenager, I decided I was going to smoke cigarettes too. And it was a day in which my mom was supposed to be at her garden club or something like that, and Dad was supposed to be at a business meeting of some sort, and I had the whole house all to myself. And I sat at the kitchen table and I took one of my dad's cigarettes and I lit it up. And I was smoking that cigarette, and I was feeling like I was really something. And all of a sudden, I realized my dad was standing right there looking at me. And he said, "What are you doing? Smoking?" Well, I've always been quick on my feet. So I looked at him, I had a cigarette in my hand, smoke coming out of my mouth, and I said, "Who? Me?" And Dad just stood there, silent. And finally I said something like, remembering the story that my dad had told me about how when he got caught smoking, "Father, behold your son." He didn't like that, didn't see the humor in that at all. I won't go into detail about what happened after that, but I will say that I don't smoke cigarettes, but I do know that I hurt my dad when he saw me smoking, because he knew that I was doing something that was going to hurt me. In fact, my dad and my mom both died of respiratory disease, and in large part because of their smoking cigarettes heavily all of their lives. Behold your son. Behold your child. We know that when parents behold their children and their children are doing something that hurts them, it hurts the parents. When the children do something foolish and is a bad decision, that hurts the parents. But even when the child does something good, like sacrificing himself, like doing something courageous, like, I don't know, hanging on a cross, it's hard for parents to behold a child enduring that kind of pain. And when we read these words among the 7 last words of Christ, "Mother, behold your child," we should realize how painful it was for Mary or for anyone to watch Jesus suffer. 2,000 years later, we sometimes forget the pain and agony that it took. But brothers and sisters, behold our Lord.